We're here back in the Fantasy Bar, week 12. Up next, 6 of my favorite plays on FanDuel and DraftKings coming off Thanksgiving, including a receiver returning. I want to get in my lineups, a value tight end play, what game I'm stacking up this weekend, and a beast of the week under 6K on DraftKings. Who are we talking about? Belly up to the Fantasy Bar and find out. Welcome in, guys. Week 12 edition Beers Daily Fantasy 6-pack. Hope everybody out there had a great Thanksgiving holiday. Still got a ton of football to go this weekend. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out the video. Before we get into the plays, a couple things. As always, take a second, click that thumbs up button. That is the tip jar here in the Fantasy Bar on this free video. Subscribe to the channel. Don't miss any of the content. Doing NBA videos a couple times a week. My Pints and Picks video, 2-0 last week, with all my favorite NFL bets. Make sure you catch that each and every week. So subscribe. And speaking of sports betting, check out scoresandodds.com/beer. Tons of great info over there. Analytics, trends, compare the odds across all of the different sports books. Parlay IQ, going to help you put together some plus EV parlays and premium picks from all of your favorite RotoGrinders personalities, myself included, writing up a few games each and every week. Check it all out at scoresandodds.com/beer. All right. Enough of the promotional stuff. Let's get in to the turkey and the meat of the show here. Let's get into the picks. Let's start at the wide receiver position this week with Juju Smith-Schuster of the Chiefs. Now, fully expecting Juju back in the lineup this week. Everything's sounding good, practicing, so we'll see if he clears that concussion protocol. That questionable tag, I think, is going to help to keep the ownership down to where it should be in this matchup. Let's look at some of the games before he left. That game against Jacksonville early with that injury, got knocked out of that game. Was really on a tear. This guy was averaging over 24 DraftKings points per game the 3 games before that. So really becoming the alpha receiver outside of Travis Kelce for this Kansas City Chiefs team in this matchup with the Rams. I think a lot of people are going to be excited to play Isaiah Pacheco with CEH on the shelf. Rams still very good against the run, led by Aaron Donald and that front. Top 5 in the NFL against the run. Not so good against the pass. And we know what the Chiefs want to do. They want to throw the ball around the yard. This is a team 26th DVOA against the pass, Kansas City. Big 29-point team total here. I think Juju going to be a big part of that here this week against the LA Rams. All right, let's go to tight end position next with some value in Gerald Everett of the Chargers. Now, I know we got a lot of stud tight ends on this slate. We just mentioned Travis Kelce. We got Mark Andrews here as well. So George Kittle. So if you want to go that route, always an option. You're paying up at tight end. You can afford it. You like the rest of your lineup. No issues. If you can't or you don't want to, you can't make it up there, I think Gerald Everett, the guy you want to look to. And the target's certainly been there for this guy as well. 6 or more in 6 of the last 8 games. In fact, 7 or more now in 3 of the past 4 weeks. Chargers still dealing with some injuries. I'd be surprised if Mike Williams plays this week. So one less body that he has to contend with here. And this matchup, as good as it gets for a tight end. This has been years running. Arizona, historically bad this season. We're talking checking every single box here. The most receptions allowed to tight ends, check. Most receiving yards allowed, check. Most receiving touchdowns allowed to tight ends, 9 already on the season. And of course, the most fantasy points allowed to this position. Now, they face some big boy tight ends, no doubt. Gerald Everett thinks in a good spot to keep up with those higher end tight ends this week. Potentially have a ceiling game here against the Arizona Cardinals. All right, quarterback up next. We're going with Geno Smith of Seattle. So these prices still seem too cheap on Geno, especially DraftKings at just $6,000. This guy just continues to put up numbers that outproduce these salaries. In fact, 19 or more DraftKings points in 3 straight games here. Reason why, really giving us some added value with his legs, putting those rushing yards on the board and been very consistent in the touchdown department. We're talking multiple touchdown passes in 8 of 10 games so far this season. Las Vegas, a great matchup for any opposing passing game. In fact, the best matchup, 32nd in DVOA against the pass, and the worst overall DVOA defense is the Las Vegas Raiders. 3rd most fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position. I know there's some weather there in Seattle. Looks like some rain. Wind doesn't look out of control. Still a spot I want to target here, especially if it's going to scare people away. Geno Smith, too good of a value here against this horrible Raiders defense. All right, we like Geno. Let's pair him with one of his pass catches. We're on wide receiver, DK Metcalf. So Metcalf really getting the targets here in this offense. In fact, out-targeting Tyler Lockett 25-18 here over the last 3 games. 13 or more DraftKings points in each of those 3 games. So doesn't sound like a lot, but we know this guy has a huge ceiling. We haven't seen it a bunch. Had that one game of 25 DraftKings points, but over the course of the last couple years, We know this guy has that 25, 30, 35 fantasy point output within his range of outcomes. We can't say that about a lot of guys at the wide receiver position. So BK, phenomenal tournament option here. We mentioned the weather, probably going to scare a lot of people away here. Look, the projected team total, still 25. I know it's going to drive a lot of people to Kenneth Walker. I'm fine with that play. But if he's going to be highly owned, give me Geno, give me the passing game, give me DK Metcalf against this terrible Las Vegas defense. All right, let's build you a little stack here. Let's go to the other side of that game at running back with Josh Jacobs of the Raiders. Jacobs getting it going again. You know, we saw him dominating, then had a couple rough games against New Orleans, against Jacksonville. Has really bounced back here against the Colts, against Denver. To me, two decent defenses against the run. 27 touches in each of those games. Over 22 DraftKings points per game against those two opponents here. Now, Seattle, a great matchup for running backs, especially pass-catching running backs, which we know Josh Jacobs, a big part of this passing game. Seems like they throw to Devontae Adams. Next option seems to be Josh Jacobs in the passing game or Derek Carr. But Seattle, bottom 10 in receptions allowed to running backs, receiving yards, receiving touchdowns allowed, and of course, fantasy points allowed. Josh Jacobs playing at a very high level here. Great matchup against Seattle. Get them in those Week 12 lineups. All right, it's time to take a look at my favorite play for Week 12. Before we do that, let's continue our Beast of the Week contest. Free to play, easy to play, and a thank you to you guys for hanging out here in the Fantasy Bar and checking out the video. All you got to do, get in the comment section right below me and guess fantasy points on FanDuel this week for my Beast of the Week. The closest guess is going to win themselves a free week of RotoGrinders Premium. Chance to check everything out behind the scenes. All right, let's wrap this baby up. My favorite play for Week 12, you know him as the Beast of the Week. All right, Beast time. We'll you one more running back, and I promised you under 6K on DraftKings. We are rolling with Jeff Wilson Jr. of Miami, this week's Beast of the Week. Now, as you guys know, Wilson, a favorite here in the Fantasy Bar. I had him a couple weeks back in his debut with the team, and he dominated in that matchup, dominated again last week, and we really couldn't. If you could draw up the best spot for a running back, this is about it. And we're going to go through that checklist here momentarily. But let's talk injuries first. Raheem Mostert looking iffy to play. You know, this guy's not practiced much of this week. Wilson coming off 25 fantasy points against Cleveland, and we saw it in that debut game. He looks to be the lead back here with Mostert mixing in. So Mostert's out. You're going to get mix-ins from Ahmed, some of these other guys. But Wilson will be the clear lead dog. Now, let's run through the checklist. Again, we're designing a great spot for a running back. This is exactly it. First of all, price. We're getting him under 6K on DraftKings, under 8K on FanDuel. Check. Massive home favorites, which is where we love to target our running backs. Miami, 14-point favorites. Now, the argument they could run away with this game. Yeah, and if they do, Jeff Wilson, probably a big part of that. Huge team total here, over 30 for the Miami Dolphins. Is the passing game going to be a part of that? Of course it is. There's going to be plenty to go around here against this Houston team. But on the ground, Houston, 31st DVOA against the run and the most fantasy points allowed to the running back position. So archetype here is exactly where we want it. Price, check. Big home favorite with a huge total, check. Great matchup with Houston, check. Jeff Wilson Jr. checking too many boxes for me. Easily my favorite play on the board in this week's Beast of the Week. All right, guys, that'll wrap us up here for Week 12 in a Fantasy Bar. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, hit me up in that comment section right below the video. Don't forget, fantasy points for Jeff Wilson Jr. on FanDuel for your shot at some free RotoGrinders Premium. While you're down in that comment section, I want to know who your top play is. Who is your Beast of the Week? Sound off in that comment section for RotoGrinders.com. I am Beer saying salut, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Best of luck here in Week 12, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for checking out our videos. If you want more expert advice on DraftKings, FanDuel, or any other daily fantasy sports, make sure you check out the current videos playlist.